Welcome back to this week's episode of the Sports Biz Report, joined again by Mike Proska, the only one who wants to join me this summer. I'm Kevin Rossi. A lot of stuff going on in the world of sports. Plenty to talk about. A-Rod, the launch of Fox Sports 1. Some interesting stuff there. If you want to keep talking about A-Rod, that's probably the main thing. Most people are sick of it. I know Mike's sick of it.
I'm getting a little fed up with the A-Rod stories.
It's cool. You can just botch a surgery or something, and he'll just go away. I think that's what the Yankees thought. But anyway, we'll start with the launch of Fox Sports 1, which launched last Saturday with a pretty packed lineup on their first day. They had NASCAR coverage during the day of a race, and then a UFC event at night, which the UFC gratefully loaded with big names. You had Chael Sonnen, who gave a typical Chael Sonnen hilarious post-fight interview with Joe Rogan. I highly suggest you watch that if you enjoy athletes speaking off the top of their head in ridiculous fashions.
Especially as they're fighting.
Yeah, quick fight. Sonnen won in the first round over Shogun Rua. Yeah, but the card was loaded. Overeem got knocked out. He's kind of a polarizing fighter these days with steroids and all that. But hey, steroids is the name of the game, so
they're everywhere. Literally.
Except somehow they keep their way out of the NFL. I don't understand that, but that's for a different day, I suppose.
Yeah, that'll be give it a couple years and that'll be the talk.
Right. So the launch of Fox Sports 1 is kind of significant because a lot of sports fans are getting fed up with SportsCenter and ESPN's general embrace debate. You can see that on ESPN with their burying of Outside the Lines, which is their, highest quality journalism show. It was on 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings, and now they're pushing it back an hour to 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings to, even lower rated time. You would like to see a company like ESPN really, dig deep into those issues because they have the resources to do so. And when they do, it usually produces a very good result. But another thing that the embrace debate has really sunken into is everybody's favorite SportsCenter. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have now deemed SportsCenter literally unwatchable. A couple weeks ago, we had Tebow's 26th birthday, which was also, as sites like Deadspin reminded us, the 1-year anniversary of ESPN's completely graphic love fest of Tebow's birthday, his 25th birthday. We're talking about a backup quarterback, and I'm pretty sure they spent an entire 24 hours.
Yeah.
which we all know ESPN will gladly spend their time on Tebow. So Fox Sports 1's answer to SportsCenter is Fox Sports Live, which has made some pretty big name hirings. So they brought Jay Onrait and Dan O'Toole down from Canada to LA to anchor the show. And then they also added a panel segment to it, which is headed by Carissa Thompson, and it features former NFLers Ephraim Salaam and Donovan McNabb, retired U.S. tennis star Andy Roddick, and NBA legend Gary Payton. So it definitely has the name firepower.
Oh, definitely. And they're all athletes who are known to speak their mind during their heyday and even afterwards. So
Gary Payton speak his mind now. I don't believe you. So I personally have some quick thoughts on it, and Mike, jump in if you have any. Mm-hmm. I watched Saturday night's version after the fights, which featured both Jay and Dan doing highlights, and then the panel, which is their normal during the week setup. And then I watched the Sunday version, which is their weekend set up with just Jay and Dan. There's no panel. Sunday, it took them a little bit to get into the swing of things. You could tell that Jay and Dan, they were working with a new production crew, I suppose.
But you're going to expect that as well.
Right. And, not taking anything away from that. I, totally understand that. They're funny guys. Especially Sunday, you could tell that they were settled in a little bit. And, they really give the people what they want. The people want highlights with personality. SportsCenter gets criticized for showing off their, former athlete firepower a little too much, getting too much opinion and not enough highlights. You turn on SportsCenter any day.
And the thing with SportsCenter or even ESPN that really it started for me when I really was like, okay, ESPN, you're doing the same thing over and over again, was Brett Favre a couple years ago.
Right.
How many times can you talk about Brett Favre in one summer?
Yeah.
That was not, I don't even know how to describe how frustrating that got. And the thing was, there was no other channel or nothing else to go to. So, I don't know. If ESPN continues with this and the Fox Sports Live, their name becomes more popular and people just try it out and they realize how good these two anchors really are, how funny they are, there's going to be opportunity for them to really grow, I think.
Right. And, SportsCenter was on the one end of that. And then they also launched a show that was more on ESPN News called Highlight Express. And that, when you watch ESPN News, it's usually solid, but you get their lower level anchors and crews. So you kind of feel cheated out of things. You don't get the same personality. So Fox Sports Live really had an opportunity to carve a niche in there, especially with two guys anchoring that had such a cult following coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're hilarious. I think they can carry a show by themselves. One of my biggest things was the panel. We talked about it a little bit. It was weird. Their first show, they started off with Dodgers highlights. The Dodgers had won that night to win 42 of their last 50 games. They show the highlights. They throw it over to the panel. And Andy Roddick is now fielding questions about the Dodgers. His answer wasn't bad. It just feels a little odd.
And I agree. I was able to see that highlight as well. And as he was talking, I was like, this is a tennis star. Did he even play baseball in high school? Where's the credibility coming from? But then the more I really thought about it, where's Stephen A. Smith's credibility really coming from? And really half the people on ESPN in really the same way. I just think it's going to take time to get used to as a fan of both Andy Roddick and sports. I'm not used to him talking about really anything else except tennis. But over time, I could see it working.
Right. I kind of see it the same way as when when a movie star is known for a certain movie or TV show, and then they do something else, and all you see is their old character. Roddick's answers weren't stupid, and they were well thought out. And honestly, he, out of the four panelists, he's the best panelist so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all you see is Andy Roddick, tennis star, and then when you hear baseball coming out of his mouth, it almost doesn't even matter what he says because it just feels off.
And that's just going to take time, even for the other panelists as well, for them to really gain that credibility.
Right. And I missed the Mike Tyson was on Fox Sports Live last night, and I read a little bit about it that they kind of missed on follow-ups. I'm not surprised because you're working with former professional athletes that are just on TV pretty much for the first time. McNabb has spent a little bit of time in the media, but he's kind of reserved himself to just throwing out ridiculous claims from time to time to keep his name out there. But it certainly has potential. I think they need to figure out how to better work the clunkiness going back and forth between highlights and the panel. And that comes with time.
Yeah.
If you look at how SportsCenter evolved, everybody's got to start somewhere. And, SportsCenter wasn't entering into such a critical, Twitterverse, I suppose, when they started. There's a lot of quick reactions, but you need to give these things time because they're going to evolve.
Definitely true. I also feel like if Fox Sports could sort of get a big story going or something like a documentary, like how ESPN now has the 30 for 30s, they had E60, and they always have something like new come on that the women's 9 for 9 that's been marketed forever now, and that's people talk about it all the time. Like they're gonna watch it. If Fox Sports can get something like that, just to get their name out there more, get more people interested, and then these people then start watching, the highlight reels and the panelists. I mean, that's something that can really help them out, I think.
Right. It's the original content, because that's where ESPN is king. No matter what you think of them, they always, forget about the rights. They always have original ideas, original content.
Yeah.
I know Fox Sports is doing a 6-part Tyson documentary. So playing off everybody's obsession with Mike Tyson. I mean, it can't not be fun, I suppose.
Not only that, but I'm sure that would hit their target market. I mean, they have the UFC fights and boxing matches on their channel. So, I mean, that's a good start, I think. It's a smart idea.
Right. And they've certainly done a lot of, cross-platform promotion. Like, the UFC event, they had the fighters. I don't know how they swung this or what they had to do for this to happen, but they would have the fighters, in their post-fight speech, answering questions interview, say how Fox Sports 1 is the new number one home for sports. I heard at least 3 fighters say that. So, we'll see how that evolves. But they're always talking about their different shows on, one show to the other.
Yeah.
One show that I found very good was their Fox Football Daily show, which is, Jay Glazer is kind of their insider, and then it plays off the cast of Fox Football Sunday morning kickoff show. And I thought that was very good and had a lot of potential going forward. I think this is kind of a different area, but I wonder how Fox Sports 1 is going to handle kind of a major news story, major breaking news that is affecting one of their sports properties. Because that's one of ESPN's biggest criticisms, is that they move slowly on, like, the Manti Te'o story. They'll always move slow on on a football story. So, we'll see how Fox handles that.
That's a good point.
If you look just from journalism standards on their ticker, they've already been crediting people by name and other outlets by name. So, I mean, Fox doesn't necessarily have the best journalistic reputation, but it's got to start somewhere, and only time will tell. A story's going to come out eventually.
Yeah, it will, and I think, we're not going to have the answers to these questions, and even Fox won't know until it happens. It's just going to take a year, 6 months to a year to actually fully be able to evaluate the whole situation and how they handle what comes up, and because something's going to happen.
Oh, absolutely.
It's sports.
Right. With millionaire athletes.
And their egos.
That's probably the biggest thing. You're right. So is this a channel? In terms of the ESPN, Fox, and NBC kind of sports hold, I guess you can throw CBS in there if you want. Where does Fox Sports 1 fall into that kind of lineup for you?
Well, I mean, obviously ESPN is the king, and as much as they have fallen off from their standards, at least I believe, I mean, they're still top of the notch, cream of the crop. And then I think every other station sort of has their own little niche. When I think NBC Sports, I think hockey, and I think the Olympics. That's just what I think.
Right.
I don't really think they have much else to their brand to really offer. Fox, as of right now, I think fighting, I think NASCAR, and I'm interested to see if they're going to be able to be recognized with other major sports in the future, because I mean, right now ESPN, they have it all, and that's what makes them stand out so much compared to the other networks. That's what I think, because I mean, the other networks, they just don't have it. They're good at what they do, but they don't have everything, whereas ESPN has it all.
Right. Yeah, I agree. The other ones kind of, they have niche sports and, big niche sport. The NHL is not a small sport.
No, the Olympics are pretty big. I mean.
They're not small. They're not small. But, a big talk was NBA rights. They're coming up. They're in the next major sport rights coming up, and Fox could be in play.
They could. Yeah.
Really, Fox can do anything. They stole golf, the U.S. Open away.
Yeah.
And Fox has never aired a golf tournament. So, you're seeing the kind of, pull that they want to have, and they certainly have the financial backing. Will ratings eventually take play in that? We'll see. They're not bad for a starting off network, but, they're not ESPN.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to take the risk, but if they're willing to, there's definitely opportunity for them to grow.
I agree. I think it's definitely a number 2 for me, especially with the potential of Fox Sports Live as kind of not a true replacement, but something else to turn to after you watch SportsCenter twice.
Just random question: does Fox Sports have soccer now? The English Premier League?
That's NBC.
That's NBC.
And their coverage has been. Last weekend was the first weekend of it, and they did really well with that. They've really brought in a good team of announcers, analysts to cover that.
That's something to watch out for, because that league is worth lots and lots of money, and their followers are very passionate. So, I mean, that's something that could grow in the future, especially in the U.S.
Right, and I think soccer is like a whole different monster, but I think a lot of American sports fans want to embrace soccer, but they haven't really had someone bring it to them to embrace, because, America, we want the top, we want the top competition. So only in that case, only the EPL really makes sense.
Yeah.
Now with NBC really making a full commitment to showing a lot of it, I think that it has a chance to really take off. And, the rights package for that was huge, but, NBC could be in for a bargain.
Yeah. It's definitely something to watch for. Something that, I mean, soccer, it really, when it takes off in the U.S., it will grow, and whoever has it for their network, I mean, they're going to benefit from that. It's just, you don't know if it's going to be within, 5 years, or you're just going to keep waiting and waiting.
Right. It's been waiting for a while now, so we'll see how that goes. So that's all I got. Definitely have to say, even if you are turned off by the idea of a panel on your Sports Center, I would definitely give it a try just to see, what you like. Even if you go there don't like it, it might give you an appreciation for what Sports Center brings to the table. I know I kind of felt that way a little bit because I've been highly critical of Sports Center and ESPN and their embrace debate stuff, but it definitely made me feel like, well, maybe they're not so bad.
Yeah, it's different to see just something different than ESPN. It does make you appreciate what ESPN does. As much as you want to criticize them, they're good at what they do.
Absolutely. So for Mike, I'm Kevin, and until next time, check us out online and Twitter and the blog, the usual stuff.